All right, everyone, the buttons on here changed today for me to set up a live, so I'm hoping that this is working. And I don't see it showing up here. Just trying to make sure that we've got it on both places. All right. So, shows that we're live, and yet I'm not seeing it. All right, well, today we are going to talk all about the things that you need to do your freshman year, your child's freshman year, to make sure that they are on track. And let's see here. Now we've got some people in the room. That's great. So for the freshman year, one of the most important things I want parents to consider as they're thinking about, like, oh my gosh, we're getting into that whole planning mode and what do we have to do for college, and maybe you've heard some of the stories parents of older students have told you, and it might seem a little overwhelming. So we're going to break it down. We're going to make it super easy. But what I want to start with is the end in mind. And no matter how old your children are, there's only three things that all parents want for their kids. And the first of those three things is we want our kids to be happy. We don't want them to be miserable later in life. We want them to be happy. And so we have to think about that as we move forward with all of the planning that needs to happen. It doesn't mean we're going to give them the easy route where they don't have to do anything in the meantime. But we want to focus on what's going to make them happy in the long run. The second thing is we want them to be self-supporting. We want them to be capable of having the life that they want, taking vacations, owning a home, having a family. So they're going to need to be self-supporting. And so that's part of our planning. And then the third thing is we want them to feel supported. Dealing with teenagers, sometimes that's not always easy, because sometimes they always feel like it's an adversarial role, like it's they have to be right. They're trying to express their independence, spread their wings. And so sometimes they aren't willingly going to follow directions. So we're going to share some insights with that as well as we walk through the process today. So, knowing that kids don't always listen, and knowing that sometimes they need to hear it from someone else, or that they think they know what they need to do, we'll walk through some things on the best ways that you can help your child. If they're an 8th grader, a 9th grader, a lot of the things we're going to talk about today are applicable regardless of their age. But we're really trying to be very specific for what you need to do during 8th and 9th grade. So we like to start with planning. What does the 4-year track look like throughout high school? What do you need to cover? What should you be considering? One of the biggest complaints I hear from students is late junior year, them saying, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have realized this sooner. I wish I would have thought about this sooner. I wish someone would have told me. And so we want to share this information so that kids aren't struggling later, so that they're not wishing they would have known. So one of the biggest things that I see parents not recognizing early is often your 8th grade grades. If your child has taken high school algebra 1, if they've taken Spanish 1, if they've taken high school classes while they are in 8th grade, each district handles this a little bit differently. Some districts just show it as a pass or fail. Other districts assign a letter grade. If they assign, let's say, a B, that means your child is starting with their high school GPA at a 3.0, because a B in most school districts is worth 3 points. A's are 4 points. Obviously, this can become an uphill battle then to deal with. So you want to know right away, are the 8th grade, is that GPA carrying over for any classes they may have taken in 8th grade? Because it's definitely something you want to plan strategically for if those grades are carrying into the GPA. They may show up on the transcript, but if they're not part of the GPA calculation, you don't have to worry about it. If they are and they were not A's, it's something that you need to think about, because now you've got a little bit more of an uphill track. And it is something that you can explain during the college admission process, but for the really selective schools, it's going to be tough for them to look the other way on that. So knowing what you need to do early is going to be important. As you're planning your students' high school classes, what makes sense for them? It's frustrating sometimes, because I feel like often families are in two different camps. There's the, okay, we just, we want them to experience high school and have a good experience and be a kid still and not take anything rigorous. And then I see the other camp, where if you've been told that you are eligible for an honors or AP class, you're going to do that. Teacher said that you qualify. Teacher said you're good enough to do it. Here's the only challenge I have with that. Each teacher is living in their own little silo. If you're in the English department and you're recommended for honors English, great. But they don't know that you've also been recommended for AP US History, honors geometry, and so forth. And so they're not considering the workload your child will be under during that time period. They also may not be aware of what sports, what extra interest your child is pursuing. If your child is a competitive skater and they're at the ice rink for hours and hours a day, if they're a rower and there's travel time to a lake and then practice and then back, they're not aware of all of these things. So when they're recommending a child for an honors class or an AP class, they're only saying that, yes, in the ideal situation, you're definitely capable of this work. But are you really capable of the work when you factor everything else in? And I'm not saying dumb down your schedule and make it easy. What I'm saying is, let's figure out where your child's interest lies. If they're interested in English, they love to read, they like to write, they're interested in the subject matter, absolutely. Honors, AP, definitely. If they're more bio and math and so forth, honors and AP that way. You definitely want rigorous classes. And I'm going to see, again, there's a new format here, and I don't know if it's going to allow me to share my screen. And it's so bizarre, because just as of today, it's a very different look to my live video here, so I do apologize. I don't think it's going to let me. On the Yale website, for instance, the Yale website specifically says we're looking at the rigor of classes, but they are taking into consideration how many AP classes your school offers, how many honors classes your school offers. And I had a situation a couple years ago. I had a girl come in, really sweet girl, nice girl, good grades, but she hadn't taken any AP classes. And she's filling out her college applications, and she said, oh, I'm taking AP in my senior year. And unfortunately, the school she was applying to all expected her to have taken AP classes. Her school offered 20 AP classes. She hadn't taken a single one. That gives the impression she wasn't willing to do the work, or that she wasn't recommended for them, in which case teachers felt she wasn't capable of doing the work. Keep in mind, AP classes, advanced placement classes, are standardized nationwide. Colleges love when students take AP classes because they know what the curriculum is. It's the same for everyone. There's no question about the rigor of the class. There's an AP test at the end of the class, end of the year, in May actually, in which it's graded independently, not by your high school teacher, and it's graded on a scale of 1 to 5. 3 is considered passing. 4 and 5, 3, 4, and 5 get you credit at a lot of schools. At more selective schools, 4s and 5s get you college credit. So if you take AP language, for instance, that counts as College Comp 1. You don't have to take that when you go off to college if you scored whatever the college's requirements are. Without taking that, without taking an AP course ever in your high school career, if your high school offers them, colleges feel like they're at a disadvantage on evaluating your readiness for college. You haven't taken a college level course. How do we know how ready you are? How do we know that you're just not somebody that teachers like and they've been giving you great grades? And that's the important role standardized tests take in the college admission process. So when you're thinking, and you will all be making these decisions in January or February, what classes do we take next year? What are we taking honors? What are we taking regular academic classes? What do we have the opportunity for AP? I can tell you in most schools, AP history classes seem to be the most available for sophomores. AP history classes are a lot of reading and analyzing. So you want to be aware of that, because if your child hates to read, maybe there's an alternate class they could take that would still show the rigor. Maybe they can take an AP in another area. Maybe they can take an honors in another area. You definitely want to show rigorous coursework though. So AP, IB, honors, and then there's also dual enrollment, which in some places is also known as College Credit Plus. Dual enrollment or College Credit Plus is where you're taking a college class. It may be right at your high school, but it is a college class, and you're getting a college credit at a local college, community college, four-year college, and you're also getting high school credit. These classes are great. Your in-state colleges will accept them. Your out-of-state college, it's up to them. Many will, some will not. But it still shows more rigor than your basic academic classes. So taking dual enrollment or CCP classes is also a great way to go. AP is more standardized. Every college is taking AP as long as you have the score for it. CCP, there's no end of the year test. There's no score that you need to achieve. It's if the college will grant that credit. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we're talking about looking at colleges and so forth. But as you're thinking ahead, if you go to your high school's website, there's a great chance that under the guidance tab, you're going to be able to pull up the program of studies. If you just go to your high school website and then in the little search bar, you put in program of studies or course selection, it'll give you that list. And I really highly encourage you to take a look at it in advance of your child coming home and saying, oh, hey, can you sign this? I need to turn it in tomorrow. Because that's often what happens. So I am hoping that you'll take advantage of that and really start making some, have discussions about it. Make some decisions together about what makes the most sense. What is your child interested in? It's great to be strong in a subject, but your child's likely to put more work into a subject that they have an actual interest in. So, doing that's really important. You want to consider how that GPA is calculated. So in every school district, you're looking at, you have a certain grading scale. Most schools tend to be on semesters. There are a few that are just on a yearly course load, or some that are on a percentage instead of a grade point. So just take a look at how your school grades. But if you're on semesters, what they're going to do is they're going to take your first semester total average, your second semester total average. Let's say one's a 4.0, one's a 3.0. They add the two together and then divide by 2 because they were 2 semesters. Oftentimes, I see students who have struggled their freshman or sophomore year. Junior year, they're killing it. They're having a great year. 4.0, 4.0, and parents are expecting that GPA to shoot up, and it's not. Because now you're dividing by 6, because there will have been 6 semesters by the end of junior year. And it's a lot harder to get that grade point average to go up when only 2 out of 6 are stellar. So, and again, this is something nobody seems to tell kids. So they're thinking they've got plenty of time. They're thinking only junior year grades make a difference. And nothing could be further from the truth. So getting a strong start because you're thinking about how this works, you understand how it works, and you're able to select the right classes is ideal for all students. It's funny because when you talk about planning, some people feel like, oh, that's going to be so much work to plan. But planning really gives you the guidelines, like you know what to do next. You don't have to think about it. It takes a lot more time if every step along the way you have to stop and think and analyze versus creating a plan up front. So going through the course selection will really help. Oftentimes we get questions too about 12th grade classes. Well, if they have a great year senior year, like they figured it out during junior year, what if 12th grade's great? Yeah, probably nobody really cares because most college applications are evaluated before the end of the student's first semester of senior year. So most colleges aren't even looking at their first semester grades, let alone the entire year to boost up that GPA. That doesn't mean the grades aren't important. They can revoke an offer if they're terrible. Now, some schools that don't make decisions until later. A lot of the Ivies, for instance, when they're making a decision in March, they may ask for first semester grades as part of their evaluation. So those grades will be important for them. Is it going to make a huge impact in the GPA? No. They're just making sure that you're still taking difficult classes and still earning A's and you don't have senioritis. So it's not, if you haven't done well freshman and sophomore year, those grades are not going to have as much of an impact senior year as you might hope. So planning early so that it's a guide for later, it takes less energy to take all the steps because you know what's expected. Also, when students plan early and they realize what's coming, there's two other huge benefits for them. One is that they're more likely to utilize their resources. Oh gosh, I really need this grade because I know that it's really going to count. So the teacher offered some extra help because a lot of kids are struggling. I'm going to take advantage of it. Versus if they think, it doesn't make a difference. I'll worry about it, next year. It's just one class, no big deal. If they understand the repercussions, they can plan a lot better, utilize the resources. The other thing though, often it provides motivation. Oh, wait, I have to do this? I didn't know that. Now I'm motivated to really put it into work. And planning doesn't mean you're locked into one thing. Planning actually allows flexibility. Because if I'm planning for this, but I realize, I'm not on target for this anyways, and now I've kind of made a decision I want to go a little bit different route, you still have all the pieces in place to start, shifting where your focus is. And that happens a lot when kids are talking about their majors. And so it's not unusual for that planning to shift. But if they know the building blocks of how to effectively plan, they're going to be that much further ahead. So let's talk about planning. What I find is that most students lack time management skills. And if you're like, I don't think that's a problem for my child, it may not be right now. But I'm going to ask you a question that I ask a lot of kids when they come in and they're like, I didn't have any time to do this. I've had a really busy week. I didn't have any time to finish this or to look this up or to get this homework done. I use the analogy, if they had a gift card, if they got a gift card for the holidays, let's say, and they were going to go shopping with that gift card, one of the first questions they'd want to have answered is, how much is on the gift card? They don't want to get up to the register to buy a $150 item only to find out the gift cards were $20. They want to know, so they know how much they have to spend. Ask your child how many hours in the week without letting them do the math. How many hours are in the week? Most kids can't tell you. It's 168. Wow, I have that many hours in the week? Yeah. Once you realize how many hours you have and you start planning effectively, you realize there's a lot more time available. And I'll show you, we have a planner we designed for students. And so here is the cover of the planner, the key to the week. But we teach students how to time block, because we realize most regular planners are more similar to this, where you're just writing in the different things you have to do. And let's face it, you know, if your planner is nothing but a to-do list, you have to check things off. If you don't get things checked off, you feel like a failure. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't get this done. You do that a couple days in a row, you stop doing it. Because who wants to feel like a failure? Instead, we encourage students to time block their information. And this is a really colorful version. We actually have just updated this planner and it's not back from the printer yet. But this colorful version shows that we want students to put like all their fun stuff in. So put the fun stuff in, like, you know, family time, TV time, like whatever it is. Because often students complain that, well, I didn't have enough time to do what I wanted, plus get all this work done. And then we ask them to go ahead and put in all of their schoolwork and when they're going to do their studying, when they're going to make use of those extra blocks of time. I often tell families it's a great way for parents to give their kids a little independence and not feel like they have to constantly be on them about something. Because if a student puts in their planner, their time blocking, I'm going to study over the weekend from, 11 to 12 on Saturday morning for this test, and then I'm going to study from 3 to 5 on Sunday for this test. And at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, they're laying around doing nothing. And you're like, oh my gosh, when are you going to do that homework? I know you have a big test on Monday. When are you going to study? It's great when a student can say, wow, I did 9 o'clock this morning, and I'm doing again tomorrow from 3 to 5. And now you can take a step back because they've planned for it. They're organized. They're on top of it. And it benefits your relationship, obviously, if you're not monitoring. And it also eliminates them feeling like you have to be monitoring or that they don't have to do anything until you remind them. Because there's nothing worse than a student has never taken ownership of it and goes off to college and they're like, well, nobody told me I had to get this done. So set them up for success. Planning, we have our planners available. It makes a world of difference for students when they realize how much time they really have, and they learn more effective study skills. So we talk about study skills all the time. In fact, in the beginning of our planner, the first chunk of our planner is all study skills. Oops, let me go this way. It's all study skills. And we talk about all sorts of different things. One of the big breakdowns I see for students is they're not good note takers in class. They don't know what to note. They don't know how to take good notes. They're unsure of what they need to do. So 9th grade is the perfect time to make sure that your child is becoming a good note taker. We like to suggest using colored pens and pencils. It makes it more interesting for them. They can break down different areas of a subject by different colors. And when they do that, it makes it easier to recall on a test, because you may go, oh, wow, I can't remember what this is really supposed to be. I can't remember what this means. I remember I wrote it in green. Green was all whatever. If it's like anatomy and physiology, green might be all the bones. Oh, I know this is a bone because I remember I wrote it in green. So color coding your notes gives your child a huge advantage. And again, this is one of the things they need to learn to do in 9th grade. They need to become proficient note takers. We love note cards. And I know you might think, oh my gosh, you're so old school, that's not what everyone's doing. You're right. It's not what everyone's doing. It's what really high performing students are doing. They're using note cards. Quizlet is not the same. So the brain science behind it is that the act of writing a note it implants in your mind much more deeply than typing something, than looking at something on a screen. You know, over 80% of everything you read every day is in black and white, or a shade of black and white. Pencil, gray and white, it's black and white. Your brain does not make a point to recognize that, like to remember it, because it's everything. But if you suddenly write in red, you suddenly write in blue, you have pink and purple, green, orange, your brain's like, oh, that's different. I have to remember it. I have to take note of it. And if you're using multiple different colors, it does tend to stand out more. Note cards, same thing. The benefit of note cards too is if you're putting information on the front and maybe a definition on the back or some additional information on the back, you can quiz yourself really easily. And it's not like on Quizlet, you hit the button and it tells you what it is and you go, oh yeah, I remember that. But are you able to recall it tomorrow? With a note card, I either know what's on the back or I don't. And if I don't get it right, I put it in a pile to go through it again. The best time to go through note cards, right before bed. Why? Because your brain continues to focus on whatever you were last working on. So if you sleep for 7 hours, your brain's continuing to try to make those connections. A lot of times that math problem you couldn't figure out, something that you were struggling to remember. In the morning, you look at your note cards again, you're like, yeah, got it. Now it's cement. I understand it. I'm good for the test. So note taking, using note cards, using colored pens and pencils, all make a big, huge difference. Typing something in, getting the actual response and just saying, oh yeah, I remember that, does not mean they can recall it. So Quizlet, not the same. When we talk about study skills, this is really interesting. And we've done, you know, I've been doing this for 12 years. We've done a ton of research. And one of the things we found is that most students don't have a homework space. And so what's a homework space? So I want you to think about it. How many times have you walked in your kitchen and you haven't thought, what am I making for dinner? What do we have to eat? Let me open the refrigerator. Let me see what there is. Your kids, every time they walk in the kitchen, that's what they're doing. So doing homework in the kitchen when they're in high school, not the best use of their time, because they're going to ask, what are we having for dinner? Wait, I need to get a snack. There's no focus on, this is where I do homework, because when they enter the room, the brain's like, oh, this is where I eat, even if I'm not hungry. When kids study in their bedroom, that's where they sleep. That's where they scroll social media. They may play video games if they have a TV in their room. Their brain is not focused on studying. If you have a formal dining room in your house that you use twice a year for holidays, that's a great place for your kid to study, because their brain doesn't have that preconceived notion of what has to happen in that formal dining room. If you can create an area in a room your kid never goes in, if you have a home office your kid can use in the evening, maybe the other side of your desk, something like that, that would be great, because what they're going to be doing is training their brain that every time I get in this spot, I focus on my homework. I've had some students where we've asked them to record what time they start their homework, what time they get done with their homework, but to pause anytime they realize they haven't been focused and they're like, oh wait, what am I doing? I got to come back to it, and see how much time elapsed. And it's shocking, because we've had some students realize that they've wasted 45 minutes out of an hour on everything from, oh, I have a chipped nail polish. I have to, wait, I'm going to have to paint this, but I can read while I'm painting this. You know, oh, wait, my friend just texted me. Oh my gosh, this just happened. I have to do this. All the excuses. If they have a special place where it's solely focused on homework, on studying, they're going to be that much more effective. There's a lot of study skills in our book that we talk about, everything from chunking, using mnemonics, acronyms, mind mapping, using primacy and recency. Every strategy doesn't work for everyone, but if you try several, you're going to find the ones that work. And again, 9th grade, you've got to get these study skills down, because schools are looking at grades. It is the metric that across the board, every college is looking at. What do those grades look like? How well did you do in class? Past performance is the best indicator of future performance. Colleges or businesses, they want to know that you're going to come in and achieve so that you can come back second semester. Because when parents pay, they only pay for one semester at a time. So it's super important that they learn these skills early so it's not an uphill battle. And let's face it, you don't want them to struggle. You don't want it to be difficult for them. So really good idea to get those study skills in place and all these little things that we're talking about. Let's talk about writing skills. If you have the sheet that I sent out, this is number 3D, writing skills. A lot of times students struggle to write papers. I don't know what to write. I don't know how to start it. I don't know what to say. Getting started tends to be the most difficult point. So we take students through a series of mind mapping. And mind mapping is unlike the old version of outlining. Outlining was so restrictive. What will I say first? Well, gosh, if I knew what I was going to say first, I could have started writing. I don't know what I'm going to say first. So it's so restrictive. Mind mapping is, okay, here's the subject. Here's the prompt. What would I say if I was talking about it? And then we encourage students, and I'll show you so that you can, again, tell your child what to do. We start with a big circle. Start with a big circle. Put the topic in the middle. And then we start drawing rays of sunshine. And on each ray of sunshine, we just go ahead and write what we need to write. And then we put another ray of sunshine. Going the opposite direction. And before you know it, you end up with this circle that has just a ton of stuff on it. And it makes it so much easier. Once you have this, and notice that some of the lines might have like little branches off of them. An extra point regarding that topic. Once you have this, you just go around and number all your lines. Which one should be first? What should be second? What should be third? And it makes writing a paper so much easier by mind mapping first. It's kind of like just a mental dump of everything you can possibly think of. There'll be some things you'll X out. Oh, that's stupid. I don't need to say that. Or, oh, that's too similar to this. I'll put those two together. So they can get organized so that the writing just happens. It makes it so much easier. Reading skills are another big issue for kids in high school. The last time they had a reading class was like 3rd grade. I don't know about you, but 3rd grade reading, high school reading, completely different. And yet we don't encourage kids to take any additional reading classes or figure out how to read more quickly or to comprehend better. Most kids zone out while they're reading. So if your child's having that issue, that's an opportunity for maybe some intervention, some tutoring. I'm not saying they need an intervention specialist for that. What I'm saying is they need somebody to give them some coaching. Parents pay a lot for private coaches, whether it's piano lessons, it's speed and agility, it's an extra batting coach, whatever it is, getting some coaching on items that are definitely going to pay you back in the form of scholarships or opportunities later, definitely worthwhile. Item number 4 on the handout today was all about trying things. Extracurriculars. A lot of times as freshmen, they want to hang back. They want to wait and see. What is everyone else joining? I don't know. I don't want to stand out. But they really need to get involved. Applications are looking for what activities did you participate in? How long did you participate? Was this something that was long-term, or did you do it just for a hot second? They want to know that you have a commitment to something. So we encourage students to try things. What does your school offer? What do you like? If your school doesn't offer anything you like, it's okay. Either find it outside the school, because those activities count too, or create it. We have a couple of students who created clubs at their school. Different, really completely different. One was more of an art club, one was a mental health club, one was a religious club at a public school. So there are opportunities, and let me tell you, that type of initiative of creating a club goes a long way with college admissions. But your child needs to be able to express what it is that they like. We have students who actually created a poker club at their school. And you would think like, oh my gosh, gambling. But they were talking about the strategy behind poker and how that plays into math. And they got a teacher to back it, a math teacher actually. And so they were able to do that. So don't let your kids say there's nothing they want to do, there's no clubs that they would enjoy. You know, encourage them to start doing something or create the type of club they'd really like to see in school. It's a great idea to try different things. What can you do that's different? And just like I sent you the handout today, I'm actually going to send something else to you since I'm not able to share my screen today for some reason. One of the things is keep track of them. Keep a sheet with what grade they were in, how long they did it, what the title of it was, what their role was, because I guarantee you, as much as you think like, oh, this is a big deal, they're going to remember. When we're filling out applications with high school students, they never remember 10 things that they've done. So really important to keep track of it. And often, you know, things blur together. Did I do that in 9th grade or was that back in 8th grade? How long did I do it? Was that 2 years or was that just 1? I can't remember. So make sure you keep track. It's going to make life easier down the road, for sure. I also want you to encourage your child to think outside the box. Maybe your child is not as social, and maybe they're just really geared more towards academics. There are 2 super websites. The first one is Coursera. It's the word course, C-O-U-R-S-E, R-A at the end. So course, R-A. Coursera and then edX, EDX, both of those websites, if you just type those in Google, both of those, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of college courses available for free. So if your child has an interest in something, they can go and decide to take the class. They can do it for free as an audit experience. They can drop it. Nobody cares. If they're auditing it, no grade, don't care. They could take a photography class. They could take a class like an intro to graphic design. They could take a writing class if they're not a proficient writer. There's so many different things that they're able to take on there. I know one of them offers something regarding baking. So they can really kind of explore some additional interests. And again, colleges love to see that initiative, that a child was willing to learn something extra. So think outside the box, look at those. We always tell students it would be a great idea to really speak to your teacher, not just hand in homework and walk away. They're going to need teacher recommendations for college. So if they haven't established a relationship, it makes it that much more challenging. Also, if they're planning on being part of National Honor Society, which as a freshman you might not even be aware of, but as a junior, it's a really big deal to be inducted into National Honor Society as one of the top students in the high school. So you want to encourage your children to find those teachers they really like, the teachers they can talk to. You want to encourage them to discuss their work, more than just handing it in, getting a grade, saying hi. But actually, oh, I got a good grade on this. Like, what did you think was the best part? So that your child's starting to understand what teachers are looking for. I didn't get a good grade on this. Can we go over it? Because I really don't understand why. That will help them learn. What do they need to do? Let's talk about college visits. So it's freshman year. My gosh, my kid just started high school. You're already talking about college visits. Yes, I am. For several reasons. In freshman year, there's no pressure. Your kid can be honest. They can tell you what they like, what they don't like. I'm not saying that you need to devote a lot of time to this. What I'm saying is maybe over the holidays, you're going to visit family in, another location. What colleges are near there? What colleges are on the road trip? Stopping someplace that's convenient, maybe even in your own city, just to get an idea of different aspects of colleges. But it gives kids the opportunity to see the difference between schools and realize they're not one size fits all. In high school, they just assume like, oh, well, everybody's got to take these classes. We all take English, math, science, history. We have a little bit of choice based on how well we've done. We might have a couple of electives, but we all have to take biology, algebra, geometry, and so forth. In college, they get to pick. And a lot of them really struggle with that concept. Like, wait, don't I have to take calculus no matter what when I'm in college? No, you don't. In fact, some business programs you do, and some you don't. Do you hate calculus? Maybe we look at the schools where you don't have to take it. Maybe you don't like calculus, but you love the school so much it's worth struggling through the class or making it through the class. But they need to know that there are options. Unlike high school where everything's kind of the same, in college, completely different. And the colleges are different from one to the other. Letting them see them early, just on road trips. You don't need to make formal visits as freshmen, but just driving through the campus. What do you like? What do you not like? Could you see yourself living in a place like this? Because that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be living there. You know, have your kid look up schools. One of the databases that I like most is collegedata.com, collegedataallruntogether.com. College Data will show you the campus size as far as number of students. It will also show you their admission rates. And that's a big deal. So parents, if I could encourage one thing, because I see this every year with seniors, every single year, I have kids tell me, yeah, I want to go to and name a selective school. Okay, why? Well, my parents have always said that it would be a good fit for me. Okay, why? Well, because I'm really smart, and so they figure like I should be able to go there. I cannot tell you how much pressure it puts on your kid for you to keep telling your kid, you could go to Yale, you could go to Harvard, you could go to University of Michigan when you don't live in Michigan, you could go to University of North Carolina when you don't live in North Carolina. You could go to one of these really selective schools. It puts pressure on them because they feel like if they don't get in, you're going to be disappointed in them. And we both know you just want them to be happy, self-supporting, and be able to take care of everything that they need to take care of in life and feel like you're supporting them in that journey. So you don't want them to feel like it's a make or break on how you're looking at them. So absolutely, go for those reach schools. I'm not saying don't do that, but what I'm saying is you don't want to make your child feel like, oh my God, you're so smart, you can go here. You're going to be able to get into Harvard, you're so smart. Because then, I mean, with the schools having 5% acceptance rate, 95% of the kids who apply to Harvard are not less than the 5% who get in. And yet 95% get turned away. So there are steps you can take throughout high school to better your odds. But the reality is, let your kids know, hey, wherever you want to go, wherever you're going to be happy and excel, whatever program is going to get you to where you need to be. So when you're talking to them about all of this, it's a great idea to pull up college data and go, let's see what the acceptance rate is. Oh, we'll have to work a little bit harder if this is where you really want to go. But if you really want to go here, we'll help you get here. If you need some tutoring to get those grades, if you need some prep to get those test scores, great. But don't tell them they're automatically getting in. And I hear that from kids every single year. You know, ask them what they really want. Do they want a rural setting? Do they want an urban, a suburban? Do they want big class sizes with more than 100 kids? That might be shocking to your child that there are classes like that. Will they feel like they can't get enough attention? Do they want small class sizes, or will they feel too much on the spot? Do they want to watch big sports? Do they want to be able to participate in theater even if they're not a theater major? Some schools will allow that, some will not. But planning early, you can figure these things out. You know, colleges have so many great clubs. University of Tampa has a skydiving club. If your kid's really into skydiving, that's been their dream. Might be a school to check out. UTampa has a lot of other great attributes, but I just find that incredibly unique. So talking to them about what they want to study is really important. Talking to them about what they're interested in is the best way to approach that subject. What are you interested in doing? What problem is there in the world that you think you might want to help solve? What do you think's missing? Those are the kind of things that are open-ended and allow your child to start filling in the blanks and thinking more in terms of, I don't have to pick one of the 5, 10, 15 majors I know about, because most don't know that most colleges have between 200 and 600 majors. Most kids can name about 12. So instead of limiting them to just the few they know, help them expand their vision by asking, what problem they want to solve. How could they solve that? What do they see a need for? What do they wish they could do? How do they want to spend their days? Those are great questions to really dig deeper into their interest and discover what it is that they want. And again, this is something that with maturity and knowledge will likely change over time. Not always, but likely. And that's okay. It's okay for it to be a work in progress. And you want to encourage that so that they feel free to investigate, to explore, to maybe take additional classes at school as electives that lead them into something that they weren't initially aware of or, thought might be a possibility. Getting them talking, keeping them talking about all of these things is really important. I recently had a student come in and he was talking about, what careers he might be interested in. And he's like, I really can't think of anything. What I absolutely know is that I don't want to sit behind a desk. I said, okay. I said, what about sales? I don't want to do sales. Salespeople just sit behind a desk or like they stand around in a store. And I'm like, no, that's not true at all. And a friend of mine is a sales manager for a medical company, and I got him on the phone. I said, describe your normal day. And he talked about, being in and out of hospitals and entertaining people. And this kid was shocked. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess I could keep sales on the list. But see, his lens, the only place he's ever seen salespeople were behind a desk or in a retail environment. And so he didn't understand what it meant. Well, if you don't understand what your options are, you can't pick them. So it's really important that, children do have the opportunity to express what their interests are so that they can get the guidance on what could fit that. I had another student who, when they took their personality test, because we do personality tests when we're doing career exploration, when he took his personality test, it came up with law as an option. And I'm like, oh, have you ever considered law? Well, not really. And again, his only thought process was being a prosecutor or like a criminal defending lawyer. That's it. And I'm like, there are lawyers who have never been in a courtroom. What? And then we talked about some of them. And it's like, oh, maybe this would be of interest. And I get those types of reactions all the time. Kids who think they want to be an engineer, a lot of times they think they're sitting there drawing the entire car and they're responsible for the design of everything on that car. One of my former success coaches, her brother-in-law was an engineer for Tesla. He designed steering wheels. He spent 4 years on one steering wheel. Most kids don't have the patience for that. So they have to understand what's really involved in the field that they're looking at. It's not drawing the whole car and being responsible for everything and making cool designs. There's a lot of different pieces within that, and they have to be willing to go with their piece, their role. So encourage your children to talk about what they like. Don't be quick to correct them. But over time, and again, giving them the information, bringing up websites, helping them understand is going to be most beneficial for them. So this is pretty much what you need to be thinking about freshman year. Making sure those study skills are on lockdown. They're getting good grades. That when you're picking classes for next year, you're setting them up for success, giving them some rigor, but not making it overwhelming, where everything is honors or AP and they hit that sophomore slump where the grades go down. That's really hard to recover from when you're applying before you even start your senior year. So those are the biggest takeaways for freshmen. Having a great planner, knowing how to time block so they manage their time, getting involved, volunteering, doing some extracurriculars, all the little pieces stacked together. Might sound overwhelming as I'm listing them, but if you're using a good planner with time blocking in it, it is not going to be overwhelming. So for some reason, I know I mentioned that my Facebook Live is looking different today and I couldn't share my screen, and it's not also letting me see comments for some reason. So I don't know if anyone has made any comments, but what I would encourage you to do is definitely drop some comments if you have any, and I think once I'm off of here I might be able to see them below this. The other thing that I would encourage is if you would like to set up a time to talk about your child personally, to get a consultation, or to discuss our planner and see if that would be a great tool for you to use, because it's very different than anything else out there on the market, and it's based on a ton of brain science and the research done. Please just drop me a note and I'll send you the link so we can set up a time, we can talk about it. And hopefully this has been really helpful. I would love to get your comments and your feedback, and I will be talking all about sophomore year tomorrow. So hopefully if you have a sophomore or you just want to see what's going to happen next, by all means jump in to tomorrow at 8 p.m. also. So thanks so much for joining, and I will talk to you later, and hopefully this has been a lot of information that's useful for you.